This is our Phoenix Center, a fundraiser for the Eden Project. My name is Michael Stewart, and I guess before we go on, some of you have come up and said, I feel like I know you from somewhere. I've seen you before, so just a quick intro of who I am. I have a voiceover production company. I started in radio way back in the early 80s, back when I felt much younger, and music was much better. And I'm also an actor, so TV shows, commercials, outlaw movies, things like that. You might have seen me at Night Market. Jason's here with Night Market, so you might have seen me as the MC for Night Market for many, many years now. I moved here in 2005 when I took a job at J93.3 Houston, Joliet Dip out. 3 years later, I've started my own business and never lived privately, so I know what you sense. And I'm married to a lovely lady at table 9. Hold up your hand, Carrie. There she is, Carrie. And when we celebrated our 7th anniversary at Carrie's event, first order of business tonight, folks, is to start the night off the right way with prayer. And I want to tell you a little bit about the man who's going to do that for us and share a couple of stories with us. Michael Laney is a native of Bridgewater, Massachusetts, and a graduate of the University of Massachusetts. Upon graduation, he accepted a commission in the United States Army Signal Corps as Second Lieutenant and entered active duty. Today, he's a retired major with the U.S. Army with 20 years of federal service. And we are grateful for that. And we are grateful that he is here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Laney.
Thank you, Margaret. Good evening. I'm sharing a testimonial tonight from one of our graduates in our last peer program who could not be here with us tonight, but she's given me permission to share this. Teresa Newkirk is a New Jersey native. She served in both the active Army, National Guard, and U.S. Air Force Reserves. She retired as a food service officer after 30 years as a senior non-commissioned officer. Teresa served in both Desert Storm and Desert Shield, retiring from military service in September of 2021. She's a graduate of the peer program, which ran from 21 April through 7 July 2025. Teresa says, I was so impressed by the 2 people at the Eden Project table that I volunteered to participate in the next class. I found out later that both Eden Project volunteers were veterans. I'm always looking for ways to help my fellow peers, and I can say my main reason for attending the Eden Project has to do with my background. I became a military social worker when I retired because of the influence of a former Marine combat veteran who had severe post-traumatic stress. We became close friends while we were stationed together in Alaska, and helping him navigate his trauma motivated me to help other veterans. With the tribe, I would share fond memories of my 2 tours in Alaska. When our senior staff chaplain shared pictures of his Alaska cruise that May while we were in his class, I was determined to eventually go back to Alaska when I retired. The capstone class challenged me to imagine what I would be doing during my short and long-term future. I felt extremely comfortable with everybody for speaking my truth. I shared my truth about looking to Alaska to retire in 5 years. As I reflected, I found that this capstone experience was powerful and transformative. I was encouraged as I listened to members of my tribe share their plans. I drove home thinking about what I had said aloud. I had not planned to share with anyone what was happening in my mind and thoughts and how I was changing and being challenged. I had bonded with the other female veteran in the class, and we went out to lunch that week. I felt so safe that the tribe I was now a part of, so I told her my secret. So during our time of sharing and expressing gratitude, the affection and love for the group formed over 12 weeks of sharing, caring, crying, and encouraging one another had forged such a strong connection that I wanted to share the news with them. I didn't think they realized how much they assisted me to find the courage to make the decision to actually seize the day now. As you listen to this testimonial, I bring you greetings from my new home in Ketchikan, Alaska. Additionally, I am working full-time as a U.S. postal clerk. I arrived on August 24, 2025. I believe that the power of the peer group The wellness practices, resiliency, boundaries, and training I received, along with the strength of the group, gave me a transformative power and grace to not only dream big, but to demonstrate the courage to act on my goals and to move with purpose. In closing, an interesting dynamic about the peer support program is the instructors. They're all on this journey with each one of us, sharing and participating just like the rest of us. I thought coming to this program, I could lend a helping hand to my peers due to my background, meet new veterans of peers, and regain what I had lost, that feeling of esprit de corps, mission, and purpose. But I must admit that I truly did gain all of that plus much more. I genuinely want to thank you, Brent Briggs, for the Eden Project. Dear Lord, this experience has transformed my life. Greetings from Alaska, the last frontier. Warm regards, Teresa Newker. Thank you, Teresa. Leonora, who's way back there, wave hi, honey. You couldn't know it. That's Leonora. Leonora and I met Bryn and Nicole Briggs, both of whom were serving as greeters at church, and began chatting about the military. Bryn said, would you be interested in helping veterans? It was just God was speaking through Gray. Absolutely. We had arrived from Scottsdale, Arizona at the end of the pandemic in 2022. I had been forced to retire after 24 years of higher education as a university professor. I was struggling with depression, anger issues, lack of tribe, and purpose. As we discussed the Eden Project, I discovered that the organization would look even greater with a chaplain on staff. As ordained clergy, I eagerly volunteered to help the veterans. I had been out of the military for 28 years, yet I had never worked to help veterans in crisis. Bryn embraced bringing me on as a staff volunteer chaplain. On April 13, 2023, I joined the Peer Support Program as just another veteran. Our instructors were young. There was a young Air Force vet and a young Army combat veteran. My children were older than them. My peers were also very young military veterans. We had law enforcement and firing. I remember chatting laws and Bobby Quinn. Bobby, say hi. Wait, for what you in, Bobby? Bobby Quinn. Bobby and I were in the same quote. Matt Husk and Yusef Dominguez, David Hall of Lardic Chilcoon. Yes, I was the old man in the room, but it was okay because I told myself I'm here to help them. Then I was diagnosed later with Graves' disease, hypothyroidism. Providentially, the wellness practices that I was being introduced to would be an answer to prayer. As I employed them regularly, I was able to see that they were most effective in helping me to manage my irritability and anger from my Graves' disease. Even now, I continue to effectively employ emotional regulation, box breathing, and gratitude journaling to focus on positivity and maintain control over my emotions. My beloved Leonora and I were both so impressed with my own transformation and that what I had observed through some of my peers that I decided to make a lifestyle decision and choice. That was to serve in the peer support program. Serving as an instructor enabled me to gain greater understanding of the solid learning and teaching objectives behind the curriculum, as well as providing me with the opportunity to help veterans in crisis. Along the way, I received a promotion from Bryn to the rank of senior staff chaplain. Without any pay, of course. But the name tag is most impressive, isn't it? Leonora and I continue to serve the Eden Project community through participating in day nights and building service projects along with Mickey and other veterans for their families. I have enjoyed serving as an instructor for the last 5 peer groups, and I am currently training and instructing new instructors and collaborating with them to successfully teach our concepts to others. My time of service in the Eden Project recently took on greater urgency. In September of 2024, I was diagnosed with an extremely aggressive form of stage 2 prostate cancer. My first treatment was the week before Christmas. Eventually, I would undergo 28 rounds of external beam radiation treatment at the City of Hope Cancer Treatment Center in Newnan. Unbeknownst to me, our wonderful leader, Bryn Briggs, had already greased the skids for me at the City of Hope by reaching out to the CEO of the hospital, and I received the royal treatment. Leaning into the resiliency that I have mastered through the Eden Project and drawing wisdom from my personality types as described in my Enneagram, I pressed on. We are beating cancer. I continue to teach, my focus on helping our veterans. I only got on with my diagnosis with Bryn and my co-instructor. On February 11th, 2025, I rang the bell on the completion of my external beam radiation surgery. I have recently completed my work with the most recent peer group and will assume the role of lead instructor for the next peer group. In closing, I joined the Eden Project to help veterans in crisis, to help veterans find their purpose, to help veterans reconnect with their faith, as well as connect with any medical or educational support that they may require, and to help veterans find the necessary support of a strong family and tribe. However, it is the Eden Project that has given me both purpose and a tribe in my loneliness. It is the Eden Project that helped rescue me from the depths of depression when I was living in the bathroom of my mother's house at 63 years old and unemployed during the pandemic. And it has given me joy and positivity despite the circumstances. With the grace of God, my beloved Leonora, and this program, like our mascot defeated, I too am rising out of the ashes and I am marching down the road toward resiliency and wellness. Thank you, Eden Project. Michael Laney joined the project to save others, but in the end, the Eden Project helped to save Michael Laney. I would ask that you would bow your head for a word of prayer. Let us pray. Provident God, we come to you for comfort, grace, and strength. Today we remember and lift up in prayer those brave Americans and those loved ones who died that day, as well as the heroic first responders who continue to serve for months following the tragic events of 9/11. Dear Lord, always remind us that 9/11 is not just another chapter in American history, not for the service members who are catastrophically injured in the global war on terror, with amputations, traumatic brain injuries, or post-traumatic stress, as well as for the families of our fallen brothers and sisters in arms. Lord, help us to never forget September 11, 2001. America promised never to forget too, yet children are growing up unaware of the events of 9/11. Dear Lord, time has not eased the heavy burden that impacted families must bear. Many who acted courageously and heroically in Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, are still fighting for their lives. Dear Lord, some of these heroes reside here in the state of Georgia, in Fayette, Spalding, Clayton, and Coweta County. Dear Lord, please send us these heroes. Let us be your hands and feet through the work of the Eden Project. Enlarge our capacity to serve those who are now unable to work, are unhoused, buried in medical bills, and left struggling to provide for their families. Dear Lord, please bless this vessel, the Eden Project, its board of directors, its leadership team, its staff and volunteers to respond to the needs of those veterans and first responders who are still suffering from the terrible fallout of that fateful day. Through the Eden Project, we daily witness the ripple effect of 9/11 and the 20-year global war on terrorism that are still being felt today. Dear Lord, these heroes and their families continue to sacrifice,
and we all need you more than ever. Dear Lord, help us make sure that we never forget those who serve when they come to us in their time of need. Now we ask that you provide for them as you have provided for us. Bless this gathering with your generosity, grace, and gratitude. Bless this food to the strengthening of our bodies, as you bless our bodies to serve our veteran and first responder communities and families. For it is your mighty name that we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Michael if you would. When you first got here this evening, you might have heard some music over in our lobby there, and I wanted to point out that the gentleman doing that tonight was Luke Morgan. Luke is a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. After serving, he signed a recording contract and has been writing and recording ever since. And a fun fact, he also owns Minuteman Press. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for his talent and his service. Would you give it up for Luke? Tonight, as you can see, with a gentleman like Michael, we want you to have fun, have a little laughter in the evening tonight, have some enjoyment with the food. But we want to touch your hearts. We want to pull a few heartstrings and let you know that what the Eden Project is all about, what they do, because it's not always smiles and it's not always happy. That's where you come in tonight with this fundraiser. And you'll hear more as we go through the night. But at this point, it's the fun part, food. So our caterers are going to let the tables know when it's your time to get up and get your food. Once you get yours and come back, please go ahead and begin eating. Once everybody's back in with their plates and still eating, we will review with the rest of the program. So thank you so much, and just carry on.
Folks, here at this wonderful fundraiser tonight, we all consider you all VIPs just for being here and for the contributions that we're looking for, aside from your ticket for tonight. But we also want to recognize a couple of other VIPs in the room with us this evening. Georgia State Senator Kenya Wicks. Peachtree City Mayor Kim Leonard. And this is the last minute one. I'm throwing this out there. Wayne Knight. Wayne, thank you for your verbal commitment to Bryn a moment ago. He shared that with me, and I think that's just lovely. Give Wayne a big hand. Wayne's looking at me like, what? What did I do? What did I say? Man, that $1 million is going to come in great. Now, when we do this next part, feel free to continue eating, folks. And for all my speakers who are going to be on panel, do not come up when I introduce Bryn. I'll get you just in a couple of minutes. So we're going to change things up just a little bit. But another VIP with us tonight is the reason that we are all here tonight. You see, he created the Eden Project years ago. Bryn and I met in 2016. We were introduced by my wife, Carrie, because they were friends first. And we met, and ever since then, it's been a connection. I've worked with him. I've been MC for many of his events. We did the podcast, the Eden Project podcast last year, which we're working on bringing that back next year. That'll be up to you folks and your wallets. He has quite an interesting career and a story, and I would not be able to do him justice by sharing any of it. So I'm going to bring up a military veteran, the founder of the Eden Project, and my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome up Bryn Briggs.
Well, I don't know if I would call myself a VIP, but thank you, Michael. And thank you, Wayne, because the conversation we had in the hall, you've almost made our night for us. My voice isn't nearly as loud as Michael, so if y'all can't hear me in the back, you might want to move closer. But this is about as loud as it's going to get. This is not where I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable sitting out there, and I was really hoping to be out there tonight, but it turned out that I'm going to be up here. So Thank you, Michael, for the introduction. Thank you for everything you've done so far. And of course, making this night come together. And of course, thank you all for coming. When we put this together, I thought I can talk to 1 or 2 or 5 people. I wasn't expecting an entire room full of about 130 people. So it's amazing you all showed up. Thank you so much for coming out. Veterans and first responders and their families are my passion, if you haven't noticed that. So when I see other people who kind of share that passion, it just touches me. So thank you all for being out here. This is actually the first event we've done like this. We've done other fundraisers in the past, and we've been doing this for 10 years now, but this is the first time we've done this. So I think it really, really has come together. And I want to thank Mike. Where's Mike? There's a lot of Mikes, aren't there? Mike Letts. So Mike and his volunteers from Crestwind came out. Our volunteers came out. Things like this don't just happen or come together overnight, but Mike and his volunteers really, really did a great job. So let's give them a quick hand. And then since I have to be up here, the board gets to stand up for a second too. So if I could get our board just to quickly stand up for a second so I can introduce you. You don't get to sit down so quickly, so hang on a second. Dr. Bruce Resnick, he's a retired Army colonel. He's our current board chair and our outgoing chair. Nathan Ellison is our incoming board chair. Mike Letts, Mike has been like the operations behind everything that we do. You can tell which one he is. Thank you, Mike. Dr. Angela Swain. She's with Piedmont Hospital, and it's because of really Dr. Swain and Piedmont that we're able to bring this together. They're our presenting sponsor tonight, and thank you again. Trey Strawn, he's the managing partner at Rome and Trilith. And Soretta Bean, she's with the Fayette Chamber of Commerce. So this night was actually the brainchild of Kathy Bergram. I know she's here. She's trying to hide somewhere. Kathy, thank you so much. Kathy brought this idea to the board, and they all agreed, thought it was a great idea. I thought it was a good idea until they said I had to be up here. But I really appreciate her vision and really making this idea, come to life for us. And I know Michael introduced him already, but the music, could y'all hear the music in the beginning? Was that fantastic or what? So Luke is the new owner of Minuteman Press in Fayetteville. I've always done business with Minuteman Press, and when he took over, I went in and got to meet him. And he's like, I'm a vet, and I'm like, that's great. He goes, I do music, and I've heard that before. I'm sure you do. So then he sent me a studio recording of his music, and I'm like, wow, that's actually really good. And a few weeks ago, my wife Nikki and I went to listen to him. Nikki's now like a full-blown groupie. So we listened to him, and I knew it was going to be a fantastic night because of how he played in Sonoy, and of course how he did tonight. So, have you heard the term "don't quit your day job"? I think he actually could quit his day job, but if he did, all the stuff, all the print material here is done by him and Minuteman, so we need him to maybe do both. And the last thing, the food, if the food tastes half as good as it smells, oh my God, was it amazing or what? I've had so many people ask me who was a caterer. It's the Grand Gourmet. So if you need to write that down, write it down. If you need us to get it back to you, we'll make sure you get those notes. But the Grand Gourmet, I think, did a fantastic job taking care of y'all. So I said it looks good because I don't eat before I talk. Some of it's, nerves, but a lot of it I'll tell you about in a second because, well, I used to teach in the Army. My career was Marine Corps and Army, but I taught for the Army. And I was teaching this one class, and you know how like after lunch, you're all kind of groggy from the food, and you're maybe if it's nice and warm, most people tend to go to sleep. Nobody was sleeping in this class. They're staring at me, kind of like you are, but they're staring at me. There's a class of maybe 20 or 30 other military guys, and I'm thinking I must be really good at this because it's after lunch. They're supposed to be asleep. The class itself was pretty boring, but they're just staring at me. So we get our first break, and some kid comes up afterwards. He goes, sir, there's food stuck on your face. I said, what? He goes, yeah, he said, there's food stuck on your face. He goes, we have no idea what you've said for the last hour because we're taking bets on how long that's going to stick. So I don't want y'all focused on food that might be on my face. What I have to say is kind of important. I know what what the panelists are going to say. So I don't eat so that you guys don't get, sidetracked on the food. I wasn't even planning to be up here. When Kathy and the board got together, I thought, this is a beautiful idea. A night where everybody comes together, we have a panel talking, and they get to talk, and maybe I get to sit back there, and if there's food on my face at my table, that's a big deal. But my delusion lasted maybe 5 minutes. And Kathy and the board all said, no, you have to at least tell the story, my background a little bit, and really why we started the Eden Project almost 10 years ago. So that's what I'm going to try and do right now. I'll talk a little bit about my story, and then, of course, why we started the Eden Project. But then really the important part of the night are the people that are going to be on the panel and tell their stories. These are all folks that have gone through one of our programs, the peer group or something, or maybe all of them. But they've been a part of the Eden Project, some for as much as 8 years, and some for just really new. But that's kind of where we'll get to here in a second. So for me, it goes back to probably one of my earliest memory, or all the way back to very beginning. My dad was a Marine. His sister, my aunt, was a Marine. And my dad said, if you can be a Marine, you can be anything. So the only thing I ever thought about was being a Marine from the time I could probably walk. There we go. So that was my goal. And I don't know what high school was like where you guys grew up, but in rural Pennsylvania where I went to school, all the recruiters would come and talk to the junior and senior classes. Well, I remember my junior class, all the recruiters came, and the first guy that came through was an Air Force vet. Air Force? All right. Well, this Air Force recruiter missed a belt loop on his pants. And I thought, if he can't even dress himself, how is he going to guide my career? So I ignored whatever he said that day. The next guy that came in was the Army recruiter, and the Army recruiter was talking about college money. I thought, is this an Army recruiter or is he recruiting for college? And I thought, I'm not going to go to college, so I'm not going to listen to this Army guy either. Then the Navy guy came with his bell-bottom pants. I said, no. Then the Marine came in. Perfectly tailored dress blue uniform, and he stands in front of the group for maybe 15, 20 seconds. He said, most of you don't qualify to be Marines, but if you think you do, come and talk to me. And that was it. So where do you think a group of testosterone-driven teenage boys went? I already knew what I was going to do, but it was an easy decision after that. We all went to the Marine recruiter, and the rest was history. From 1985 to 1993, I got to live my dream. In the early 90s, the military was cut, and the Marine Corps was actually cut in half. I was part of the half that got cut out of the military. I had no plan B. I didn't know what I was going to do. It was only be a Marine. So I was lost, I was confused, I was angry and bitter, and I had no idea what I was going to do. So for probably 11 months, I just kind of kicked around wondering what I was going to do. I had a couple jobs, and of course I burnt through those jobs really fast, and I was quickly destroying my marriage as well. Well, then another Army recruiter called me up and said, hey, what do you think about being in the reserves? And I can give you a bunch of college money. There's that darn college money again. I don't know what the Army is with college money. But not knowing what to do, I accepted it, and for the next couple years, I was in college and in the reserves. So about the time I finished college, another Army recruiter called, and he said, you know, with your experience and your education, I can get you a direct commission as a second lieutenant. So second lieutenant, enlisted guy, it made sense to me. He did all the work. A couple months later, I changed my stripes in, and I had a nice shiny gold bar on my collar. Shortly after I got commissioned, the towers were attacked in New York. They took me out of the reserves. I was a medical officer. They took me out of the reserves, and they put me on this new team that had just stood up. I was the medical operations officer for a counterterrorism team. There's a 22-man active duty team. And we were super busy. We were gone all the time. It's amazing the kind of stuff that's happening here at home that most of us don't know about. So my wife at the time, she's like, can you find a job, maybe a normal job, and maybe stay home? So I got a hold of a former battalion commander, a good friend of mine, and said, is there anything I can do, or anything you have, that might keep me closer to home? And he said, have I got the thing for you? If you ever hear that, run. Especially from a colonel or lieutenant colonel battalion commander. So almost the minute I said yes, he had the paperwork done. Within a couple of weeks, I was transferred to his unit, and I thought, finally, I get to have a normal life, a normal career, and be like these other military guys that get to go home at night. That lasted 3 weeks. I got orders to Fort Lee, Virginia for 6 months, and the family stayed at home. They stayed at Dothan, Alabama, near Fort Rucker, if you know where that is. I went to Fort Lee, Virginia. 6 months later, I finished school, and I'm thinking, finally, now I get to be home. Guess what happened? Less than a month later, I get orders to Iraq. My wife looked at me and she goes, that counterterrorism job didn't look too bad about now. So I pack up, get the additional training, head to Iraq. 5.5 months into my 1-year tour, I was injured, and I was injured pretty bad. Way worse than what I had initially thought. So my whole face has been replaced. My right eye socket was crushed. My nose has been replaced twice. Both of my cheekbones are implants. They cut my jaws out, had to rebuild them, put them back in. And my chin is crooked. It's artificial, but it's also crooked. And that's why I wear the goatee, because it kind of hides your crookedness. I'm not a vain person, but I can see how crooked my chin is. During all these surgeries and the process of going through this reconstruction, my wife at the time didn't visit me or didn't call once while I was in the hospital. I spent a week in the intensive care unit, and that's when they cut my jaws out, both of my jaws. They rebuilt them, put them back in with 4 brackets, 22 screws, 100 stitches, a lot of wire. The kids loved it because my mouth was wired shut and I can barely talk over a whisper. So for 8 weeks, they were living large, and it was a great diet plan. I lost about, I think, 40 pounds during that time. But it was a tough time because, like I said, I was in the hospital alone for the entire first week of that big surgery. When I had the surgery, I'm not sure if y'all have had anything like that or gone through that, but when I did it, they gave me a morphine pump. It was a little thing that I could click on, and whether it worked or not, I don't remember, but if there was any physical pain, you could click on the pump and it was supposed to decrease the pain. I don't recall any physical pain, but the intense loneliness of just being in that hospital by myself, I would hit the button just because it was easier to be asleep than to be awake and alone. So that was the big surgery, and there were 6 more big ones like that with half a dozen other ones that I went through mostly alone during that time. So I want to make a quick note. The beautiful young lady with me tonight is not that lady. Well, wait till I tell you this part. Less than 4 months ago, I had open heart surgery. Nikki, I know she was outside my room negotiating with the doctors on how she could be in the surgery room because she didn't want to leave me. She's been by my side for 7 years. The one that I was talking about is actually my kid's mom, and she was with me during my Army career. So I want to, and I don't think this has happened, but I want to make sure that it's not a woe is me kind of thing. We're sorry, Bryn, you had to go through that. It's not about that. Nor is it about let's beat her up for leaving you alone during that time. It's not about that either. The military doesn't train us to come home the way that I came home. They don't train the family how to receive us when we come home the way that I came home. So that really is what it's about, understanding really what the Eden Project is about. The services that we have or don't have, and the support that may be lacking in a lot of ways. So like I said, for the next 5 years after that big surgery, I had multiple surgeries, big, little. When Army was finally done, and this is as good as it's going to get, about 2011, they said, that's it. And they said, about that time, 2010 or so, the Army was recognizing that brain injuries were actually a bigger issue than what they had assumed. So 2011, I was then transferred to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I spent the next 2 years in a traumatic brain injury clinic. Alone. But it worked out okay. So 2013, I'm feeling good. I feel like I'm looking good. I'm on the promotion list. So I feel like I'm on a good glide path of where I think my career should go. But the Army had a different plan. The Army decided to med board me out of the military. So I fought the med board. I lost the med board. And in 2013, after 28 years of service, I was out. And I was out just like I was out when I left the Marine Corps in 93. I had no plan because that's all I knew at that point in my life. 28 years as an adult in uniform, that's all I knew. So once again, no plan, no backup plan for sure. And I'm angry and bitter, and I'm even more alone now than I ever was before. So I've got a family to take care of with no idea what I can do. And I did what a lot of other guys do. You know, the anger, the depression, the loneliness set in, and I had a choice. I could do like a lot of my friends are doing. They were drinking a lot. They were abusing substances. They were living some crazy life, committing suicide. Or I could do something different. I decided to do something different. And that's when I started the Eden Project. All the time that I spent in the hospital alone, you know, I got to watch the other couples and the other military guys and see what was working for them. A lot of them were doing really, really well, and a lot of them weren't. But the ones that were doing really well all had 4 things in common. They all had family around them. They all had faith of some kind. It wasn't my faith all the time, but they all had some kind of faith. They had a purpose, they had a reason to get up the next day, and we all had great medical care. So these became the foundation of the Eden Project when, you know, that became my mission. Our entire organization is built on these principles: faith, purpose, a support system, and good medical care. And Dr. Laney touched on that with a story from Teresa. Teresa was actually just in the most recent class. Teresa, in our capstone event, said in 5 years she was going to move to Alaska. And then when we came back the week later, she said, I got my tickets. That's why we have these 4 pillars. So for nearly 10 years, we've served our veteran and first responder community. Our peer programs and 6 other programs are our specialty. We have 33 other partners that we work with that do a lot of other things that vets need. I won't read everything on the sheet in front of you, but you have a list of 7 programs that we have that are uniquely ours, that are proprietary. The peer program, for example, we help veterans focus on who they are and where they fit into this community. I didn't have that when I got out. We help couples stay together or come back together. Didn't have that either. Most couples don't have that, and there's not a lot of organizations around us that provide the couple support. A lot of groups do veteran stuff, but not specifically to the couples. We do that. We have an intake coordinator, 2 chaplains, 10 peer group leaders, all focused on serving our veterans and our first responders. We truly are a one-stop shop, so no matter what a vet needs, we can take care of that for them. That's one of the things too that I wish that I had. When I needed mental health, for example, I had to call this place. When I needed help with a resume, I had to figure out who to go to for something else. No matter what I needed, it was all in different places. As a one-stop shop, the Eden Project, like you heard from Dr. Laney, we will take care of that for everybody. We're not going to send somebody away and say, we don't do that. Go find somebody else. We're gonna do that for them. So you're about to hear 3 stories from 3 of the people who have gone through our programs. They, I'll let them do the talking. There are 3 of over 2,000 vets that we've served in the past 10 years. And I guess with your help, we'll continue serving for the next 10. Michael?
Yeah, I was going to ask you to give it up for Brent. That's a wonderful story. As we continue on with our night tonight, it's time to meet our panel and our panel interviewer. Panel speakers, would you mind making your way up to your designated seats here on the stage? And then as you do that, I'm going to introduce our panel interviewer tonight, Abby McCullum. She's the Director of Marketing and Communications at Trilith Studios. She's a Fayette County native who currently serves as a wish-granting volunteer for Make-A-Wish, Georgia, and sits on the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Southern Crescent Community Advisory Council. Say that 3 times fast, huh? She and her husband, Matthew, who's here tonight, live in Sonoya with their young son, Logan, and five rescue dogs. That's a lot of dog walking through the week, So she made some time from the dogs to be here tonight, and we're so glad that she is. Ladies and gentlemen, on the very end, Abby McCullum.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here tonight, and thank you, Bren, for asking me to do this. Tonight, we've got some really incredible stories, and I think we are going to start with Brooke.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you for coming out to support this amazing organization, the Eden Project. So I would like you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine having a family so close, so united, that you'd put your life in their hands and they'd do the same for you. Now imagine that family disappearing overnight. That was my reality when I left the military. I served in the United States Air Force from 2003 to 2009. And in 2008, I had the opportunity to deploy to Balad, Iraq as a combat medic. That deployment changed my life forever. From that moment on, I seen things differently, I valued things differently, and I carried things that I didn't always talk about, and things that people that hadn't been there would never be able to understand. I eventually got married, but I brought baggage to that marriage. I brought baggage from my deployments. And it was a really hard process to transition. I didn't have that family support system. I didn't have that brotherhood, that sisterhood that the military had once provided me. So I really felt kind of very all alone. I told myself, just get out, get a job, pay your bills, the rest will work itself out. Well, here's the truth. 3 years later, I was still struggling. And then I met Bren. It wasn't some big formal introduction. It was a casual conversation. But during that conversation, something happened. I heard his story, and I said, man, it's so real, it's so relatable. And that's when I knew. I was like, I want to be part of that. So I joined the Eden Project, one of their peer groups. And from that peer group, it led to volunteering and community service events. And then to one of the most meaningful opportunities that I've had post-military. I served as a Veterans Treatment Court mentor. And through that mentorship, I learned it wasn't just about helping others, it was healing me too. And here we are 8 years later. Bren is still preaching about gratitude. And I've learned he's right. It's not just a feel-good concept, it's a lifeline. It can change your mental health, can change your outlook, and give you a renewed sense of purpose. So to Bren, to the Eden Project, thank you so much. And to all of the mentors out there that refuse to give up on veterans, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Brooke. Now, you're not off the hook yet, so don't turn your mic off. I know a part of your story that this group doesn't. You have 3 college degrees, and you're working on a doctorate? What? Tell us a little bit about that, and what did the Eden Project bring to that experience for you?
So when I started, they sat me at this table. Bren was working on his doctorate. Bruce already had his doctorate, he just finished. And then Kelly Goss, she's in the back. She was almost done with her doctorate. And I was like, well, man, I don't even have an associate's. What am I doing here? I don't really belong. And it motivated me to go back to school. So I started with an associate's degree, and I got my associate's in science. Then I was like, oh, this isn't too bad. So I got my bachelor's in health science. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to do something more. So I went back and I got my master's in nursing. And now I'm working on my doctorate in nursing.
That's amazing. It's incredible. So, if someone were to ask you why support the Eden Project? Aside from your amazing testimony of everything you've been able to do and the support that you found, what in your mind is the reason to support?
It gave me a place to go that wasn't at home, a place to go sit with a group of my peers that were going through the same thing I was going through. Now, I wasn't like a special forces person. I was a combat medic. I stayed in a very safe, relatively safe place, but I seen all of those combat veterans come in. And Balad, Iraq is one of the #1 brain trauma centers in the world. So I always carried that with me that, oh my gosh, what happens to those people when they go home? And then when I got home, I was like, wow, nobody even realizes all the things that I experienced there. But when I came to the Eden Project, it gave me that place to go to. And we didn't have to talk about it. We just knew. So it was that community.
That's amazing. Thank you. Bobby, do you want to tell us about your experience?
Sure. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Bobby Quinn. Thank you for coming today. So for me, my service started in 2014. I was in the Army from 2014 to 2017. I served in a couple different units. I served as a petroleum supply specialist, so I managed the distribution and storage of bulk fuel and hazardous materials. I was in the 173rd Airborne Division and the 82nd Airborne Division. So before I got to my first unit, I went to airborne school, learned how to jump out of aircrafts and do different things associated with airborne operations. Then I got to my first unit, which was a really small unit in Italy. And I mostly was there in the motor pool doing distribution with the truck drivers. I went ahead and got my truck driver's badge, and we conducted a lot of, I guess you can call it interoperability around Eastern Europe with our NATO allies. So when I left that unit, it was a really small base. I went on to a very large base after that, which is quoted going to the big army, which is in Fort Bragg in North Carolina. So I was there towards the end of my service, and it was about 100 times the amount of people there. And primarily while I was there, we mostly just focused on like the daily operations and readiness for deployment and things of that nature. But when I did inevitably leave the Army in 2017, I didn't really have a plan of what I was gonna do or what was next. I did wanna go to school, but I didn't prepare early enough to seamlessly make that transition. So in a short period of time, I needed to figure out what I was gonna do. So the only thing I really had was my military appearance, and then I had all of my certifications and licenses and things of that nature. So I went ahead and I went to movie studios, and then I started being an extra in movies as a military person. So I did that for a short period of time. It served its purpose for that period, and then I moved on and reached back out to different jobs that I had before the Army. So I was just working part-time in retail stores, things of that nature. Ended up inevitably, finding full-time jobs in different places, but it was still a disconnect. I couldn't really transition well. I felt out of place in the civilian workplace. I ended up finding out about the Eden Project through a local program in Fayetteville, and I naturally gravitated to this program. It has service members at different capacities, first responders, veterans, but everybody had a similar experience in like core context. It may not have been the exact same thing, but everybody could relate to each other. Being a part of the Eden Project, it sort of bridged a gap for me. Not only did I have great support from the Eden Project as being next to different veterans, but as far as the spouses, the volunteers, all the friends, everybody involved made a huge impact on me. all in all, I was really lost, transitioning out of the Eden Project. But with the Eden Project there, they were able to offer immense support in my professional and personal life.
That's amazing. What programs have you gone through with Eden Project? We can give him a round of applause first, y'all. Give him a minute.
So with the Eden Project, I participated in peer support classes, which are classes over the course of several weeks. I was in a class with Dr. Laney. He mentioned it earlier, and a few other people that aren't here. And I've done different volunteer events, different couples events, things like that.
Amazing. Now, we've seen your sense of community grow, but overall, how would you say your life has changed since being a part of the Eden Project?
My life has changed in ways unimaginable. It's just to have a family, a tribe. The Eden Project serves that purpose for me. It just made me enjoy life a lot more, and something to look forward to.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing tonight. Now, Haas, it's your turn. I think you have a little different background to share with us.
Yeah, I'm Haas De Leon. I have a little different background than them. I was a law enforcement officer for 25 years in Southern California. I'm pretty sure some of you have seen OPD Live. Okay, I've worked for Fontana Police Department. That's been on OPD Live a lot. So I was there for 20 years. You guys ready for a long story? This holds like a special place in my heart. I am the son of a Vietnam vet. Sorry, I get a little nervous. And somebody who suffered severe PTSD. So growing up, my house was very tumultuous. Eventually, it pushed me and my brothers and sisters out to the streets. My brothers eventually went the wrong way, ended up in state prison. My sisters did fairly well in life, still continue to do fairly well. I went to sports and hanging out with my friends. I was very fortunate to get a scholarship to play football. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. In my third year, I got hurt, I got upset, and I quit. Didn't know what I was doing in my life. I was engaged. I had a young wife that was also going to school. And my buddy's dad was like, "Hey, you ever thought about being a cop?" And I was like, "No, never at all. I walk the other side of the streets when you guys come in, you know." Like you guys just come to sword towards my house, like, I have no idea. And so he put me on a ride along. I love this story because I always say, I think he picked the craziest guy he could find and put me in the car with the guy. The guy gets in a high-speed pursuit. I'm like holding on, and I'm a young 20-year-old kid. And he's like on the mic, and he looks at me just dead in the eye and goes, "I get paid to do this." And I was like, "All right, man." And he had me hooked, and so I got out, and he's like, "Hey, how do you like it?" I go, "What do I do? Like, how do I sign up for this?" And so he mentored me through program. I eventually got out, got hired, and not really being naive, right? I was naive to what I was gonna see. I was thinking I was gonna kick doors down and chase bad guys, and that some of it was true, but it wasn't. I dealt with a lot of human suffering and having issues of my own. Coming from my background, I would start bringing people's issues on, and then I would start acting out. My first marriage, we had a child, and it didn't end well, ended in divorce. I was very wild at the time, just going out and partying with my friends and forgetting I had a wife and child at home. Swore I'd never get married again, swore it off. And lo and behold, I living the life. I am the cop's cop, like we'd all laugh, like, "Oh, what's to make a cop? Well, you got to have a divorce and one shooting. If you have that, you're the cop's cop." And I was like, "I got it. I'm the cop's cop." I really prided myself, though, on being the best And I was going to be the best, and I was going to show everybody I was the best. I was going to show everybody that I'll lead you in stats, I'll beat you in every which way. And I had a great time doing it. And then again, swearing went off, and then I met my current wife, who's back there.
Who's here tonight?
And I met my current wife, and I was like, well, I guess I'm getting married again. And we've been together for 10 years, been married for 8. And then I started getting the cracks now. And when I say the cracks, I had become so numb to everything. And I mean numb to everything. No happiness, no joy, just an existence. And so it came the time where I was just like, I wasn't having fun anymore at work. I was counting down the hours, counting down the weeks, counting down the months, counting down the years when I could retire. You know, when people say, what did it look? I said, man, I was only looking for the first 2 inches. I was just looking at my retirement, nothing else. Like, I'm going to hit retirement and that's it. And I talking to a friend one day and he's like, well, what'd you think I would have to retire? I said, nothing, man. I was just going to hit retirement. That's all I thought about. It was like the dog chasing the car. You know, I was cheap chasing that car, but when I caught it, I didn't know what I was going to do. And then lo and behold, it came sooner than I thought. And next thing I know, you know, I get a, hey, congratulations, your retirement came through. And I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to do now? My job had been strictly law enforcement, strictly a cop, breathed it, loved it, would make fun of all the guys that retired and would come back and try to hang out, like, beat it, nerd, nobody wants you around. Well, I ended up being that guy. Not as far as hanging out, but like still like calling my buddies, you know, my best friend, like, hey, what's going on at the department? Like, you know, and driving my wife absolutely nuts. And then we decided that, you know, we're retired. We're like, hey, we're not really in with Southern California anymore. I'm kind of done. I'm over the state. I don't want to be around anybody anymore. I legitimately want to move in the middle of Alaska, and I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to deal with anybody. I do not want anybody around me. I want anybody around my family. I want to be left alone. My wife's saying, no, we can't. We have kids. We need to be around people and community. And so I said, okay, all right. So we came out here, loved it, and we ended up moving out here. But then I was lost. You know, I'd literally gone from kicking indoors one day and driving high-speed pursuits, and legitimately, I left an 8-man tactical team. So that was my entire job. And I was like, what do I do now? I was completely lost. No idea. All I know was I was having these crazy rage blowups that I've always had. I didn't know what was going on. Didn't want to get off my couch. I just wanted to watch TV all day. I just wanted to be left alone. Neglecting my kids emotionally, and not being there as a father, and definitely not being there as a husband at all. And I found my faith back in God, started going to church, and church happened to have this PTSD group, and my wife's like, hey, you should go to that. I'm like, I don't got PTSD, you're crazy, dude. Like, that was my dad. And she's like, just go. And I was like, all right, I'll go. So I go to this group, and I meet the guy, Luke Kuhn, super great guy, I love the guy. And one day he calls me after, he goes, hey, you want to come with me? I'm going to this event down in Fayetteville. I was like, sure, I got nothing better to do. So he drives me down there, and lo and behold, Brent's there. And so I start talking to Brent, and Brent's like, yeah, I have this organization and stuff. I'm like, that's cool. He's like, yeah, it's for PTSD. I was like, yeah, wrong guy, bro. You know, he's like, come check it out. So I go home and I tell my wife, and I give him my information, and I tell my wife, yeah, you know, and my wife's like, you should try it. You should just go. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's for people with PTSD and soldiers and stuff. I don't got that. I'm good. And Bren starts calling me up and emailing me. I'm like, man, this guy is relentless. So I'm like, I'll go. And so we go, and the first day, and we're introducing ourselves, and it's a big group. How many people we have in that class? Maybe 15? Yeah. Yeah, so we had a full group, and so they're going around. And everyone's like, oh, "I'm in the Marines, I'm in the Army, I'm here, I'm this," and I'm like, "Oh man, I'm the only cop here." Besides, Todd kept it under wraps. Wherever Todd is, he didn't tell me till later. And so it comes to me, and I'm like, "Man, every branch has been named." Well, if you saw, you'll notice that the Eden Project, they'll have the symbol, and then they'll have all the branches of the military. And I happened to look, and I was like, "Oh, hey, nobody has Space Force." So they're like, I go, "Hey, I'm a veteran of the Space Force," and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?" I was like, "Nah, guys, I'm just joking. I'm just joking." I go, "No." So I ended up going, and I was like, "All right, well, let's see what this group does." And I loved every minute of it. Again, I always saw that 2 inches in front of my face the entire time. And towards the end, we do this walk. It's like, where do you see yourself in 6 months? Where do you see yourself in like 1 year? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I didn't even see myself in 2 weeks, let alone 1 year. I was trying to stay above water, man, and I was sinking. And I tell everybody, it's like, man, I felt like Atlas just carrying the weight of my world, and then bricks, just keep adding bricks, and I'm just like walking through mud, and I'm just on my knees, and I go, and then like I got my wife, and I'm like, "Babe, you need to take this. Like, here, take this." I'm giving her my bricks, and before you know it, she's like in the mud with me. And then I'm like, I have my kids, and I'm like, "You need to take it now. You need it." I was passing it to them, and I was like, "Man, this is killing me." And when I got there, I was like, I didn't know my worth. I thought my worth was tied up in my job, but it wasn't. It was tied up in my family. It was me being a husband, me being a dad. And I didn't know that until I came to Eden Project, is when I finally was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be a husband first. I'm supposed to be a father. And we went over that, man, and I'm literally sitting there, I'm like, 6 months, man, I just hope I'm alive, And then I'm like, 5 years, like, I hope I'm still married. Because the way I was going, my marriage was ending. I'll tell you guys right now, my marriage was on the downward spiral. And, in 20 years, I'm like, I hope my kids even talk to me. And having, there's a lot of negative talk towards myself, and having Dr. Laney, speaking with him, and just him speaking truth to me, like, "Hey, you're not that person. You're a great guy. You're a great father. You're a great dad. You got to remember those things." And I was like, yeah, but it also led me to get help professionally after I got out of the Eden Project, and go to counseling, and realize, like, hey, I'm more than a cop. I was more than that. I'm a great husband, a great father. And I honestly think without this brand, I would have been lost.
Thank you.
How incredible.
Haas, one closing question for you, and this is probably going to be hard to answer too. If you were to tell another first responder or another veteran who didn't know about the Eden Project, what would you say to them?
Oh man, this one hits kind of hard because end of July, a young kid I've known since he was 16 years old. I worked with his mother, became a cop, was my cadet when I was a gang detective, committed suicide at the end of July. And I would talk to him. I would talk to him monthly, and we'd meme each other all the time. And I would literally tell him, if I could talk to him today, I would say, "Hey, buddy, there's groups out there, there's organizations that are there to help you. Just reach out to one. If there's one, if you lived here, I would definitely put in contact with Eden Project and just be like, look, buddy, you are way more worth than what you think. Your life is way more valuable than you think. Like, you are loved." And just take this helping hand and realize that, like, buddy, there's somebody here for you. And I would recommend this organization 100-fold to everybody and any first responder that's drowning. And I'm sorry, but we're drowning. A lot of us are drowning, and we don't want to say anything. We just suffer in silence because I got to keep going, right? But the everyday public needs me. You know, the everyday public needs me, and I need to keep going. I need to be strong for them. You know, I'll tell you right now, with everything that went on yesterday with Charlie Kirk, I don't envy those detectives one bit, because I've been there. I've been gone for 3 months and not coming home. And just like, I don't know when I'm going to see my family. I don't even know if I'm going to make it home to see my family, to be honest with you. And you start living a really fast lifestyle. But I would say definitely reach out to this organization, reach out to your nearest organization that's similar, and get help.
Y'all, we've heard some incredibly powerful stories tonight that are their lived testimony. They've been through this, they're carrying it every single day. There's one thing that unites all of us in this room, and it happened 21 years ago. And I would venture to say every single person in this room remembers the exact moment when they heard about those towers. Now imagine you're one of these folks, and every single day of your life is a moment just like that. That's why Eden Project exists, is to provide people who are going through and serving their country and all of us for our freedom, to ensure that they are not only surviving and alive, but they're thriving. That's why we're here tonight. And please, let's give them a final round of applause. Now, Bryn, I'm bringing it back to you because it's not all about tonight. It's where do we go from here and what's next?
So how do I talk after after these guys? Thank you, guys. I really appreciate what it takes to come up here. It's one thing for us to talk on the phone, but to actually sit up here and do this again in front of everybody, it's a lot. So what's next? Obviously tonight is our fundraiser. It's the one thing that we do this year so that we can make this happen again next year. Whatever we can raise is how many programs we do for next year. So if we hit our mark, I think,
which is
with $40,000. If we can hit our mark, we'll do 3 more peer groups next year. We'll have all 12 of our couples date nights, or Adam, what's the right word I'm supposed to use? Couples workshops. So we'll have our couples workshops. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people that have gone through, and they're all asking, okay, we don't want to do the program again. What do we do? So we have an alumni program for all the ones that have gone through, because it doesn't end with a peer program. We have to have something afterwards and keep us together. So that's what we're looking for.
Now, I know you have a really big vision. So tell me, when someone comes to the Eden Project, physically, where do you go?
I'm glad you brought that up, because in my head there's a billion things, and that's a good point. So we've been serving Fayette County, Coweta County, in this part of Georgia for 9.5 years. For a couple years, Adam Glendie offered us space in his building, and he outgrew it, we outgrew it. So kind of right after COVID, we went to Rome and Trilith. Rome and Trilith is probably the Cadillac of places for the peer groups. However, when someone's in crisis or needs to talk and see us right now, we don't have a place to go. We don't have a place for our date nights. We don't have a place for our alumni program. So the big ask, the prayer, however we want to frame that, our big ask for next year is that we can find that permanent location. We're serving about 4% of the vets who need us. And that's not nearly enough. You can hear these stories. I hear these stories all the time. We just can't reach everybody because of how we're set up.
Yeah, but do you have a place in mind already?
Of course I have a place in mind.
Of course you do.
So I can tell you the vision and then kind of what we're looking at. So we have a partner in Atlanta. It's the Warrior Alliance. The Warrior Alliance started out a lot like us. They serve veterans. They have an outreach, but they didn't have a home either. They partnered with this group in Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves love vets. They love their community. So the Braves said, we've got all this space sitting here and no one's using it during the week. And the Warrior Alliance said, hey, we can use it. So they have a phenomenal partnership where the Braves gift space to the Warrior Alliance. We're looking for something like that too. We're looking for that community partner. I think the Real Life Center has got a similar partnership with Dogwood Church. So that's what we're looking for. And there might be a place, this big new building going up in Trilith that might have some space.
If only you knew somebody that you could talk to about that.
Exactly. That's not the only place.
Why am I looking at Abby? I don't know.
That's an idea. It would be a good idea based on how the Braves and Warrior Alliance do it, but it's not the only idea.
So talk about some of that. I mean, square footage, how big the need. You know, what are you looking for? Hopefully.
So we're flexible. If we could get a couple offices where we do one-on-one stuff, if we could get a room big enough for 12 to 15 people, 12 participants plus the instructors, a room where people can meet and do the peer-to-peer stuff. That's really all. We don't need a lot of space, but we need enough to do those things.
And it's got to be available at any good time, right?
What we found is our peer groups work best in the evening, although we would love to try a daytime. We've never had a place or an opportunity to do a daytime program, but the peer groups seem to work best in the evening. But date nights would be great. The alumni, we're flexible.
I like that. Same with, we did our podcast over at Trilith too, and so we might be looking for a new place for that. Who knows? If you didn't know this, every dollar that you give to the Eden Project, 96 cents goes to those the Eden Project is supporting. 2% goes to him. No, I'm just kidding. But that's pretty good. I mean, I know people will go and look online and they'll say, hey, how much is this charity getting? And you find out wait, they're only getting 12% of what I'm giving and everything else goes to the executives and such. It's not like that with the Eden Project. 96 cents of every dollar.
Everything goes back into our programs, and every time we make a little more money, I find a way to come up with a new program. So all of our money truly is in one of our 7 programs.
Before I do this next part, I just hope you appreciate how, I don't want to say hard, but how much it took for these folks to be here. Would you mind giving them another round of applause? It really does mean a lot. And one more for Abby, please. I knew Abby when she was just a young girl. I think you were a teenager then, weren't you? I'm old. All right, so you folks don't have to stay up here anymore. I'll let you go back to your seats, okay? Thank you so much. Well, no, not you have to stay where you are. We've been asking for things from you, but now we're going to give something back to a few people in the room. These are some awards. This award honors organizations and individuals who rise above challenges to make a lasting impact in the lives of veterans, first responders, and their families. And just as the phoenix symbolizes resilience, renewal, and strength through adversity, recipients of this award embody those same qualities in their commitment to service, sacrifice, and community. This award recognizes extraordinary dedication, leadership, and a tireless spirit in helping veterans and first responders not only survive, but thrive. So, Brent, would you do the award?
So we have 2 awards that we'd like to give out tonight. The first one is for Adam Glendie. Adam has been with the Eden Project probably as long as there's been an Eden Project. I remember I did an event 9.5 years ago, and I invited all the community, and Adam was one of the first people that showed up, and he's really shown up every single time afterwards. If I needed a place to operate out of, Adam was there. When we needed funding, when we needed anything, Adam has always been there to make whatever we need happen. So it's not just what Bren Briggs needs. Adam understands our veteran and our first responder community. 9.5 years, your support. Thank you so much for all that. And I don't know when this guy sleeps. He also serves as our, let me get the name right. Our clinical advisor. So when we're struggling with someone and what to do and how to take care of them, Adam is our guy, so we know the best care, what to give to somebody.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, Bren called me and he's like, "Hey, so I want you to say a couple words, at this event coming up." So you duped me. So thank you very much. Yeah, so it's an honor. So for why the Eden Project, right? I'm involved in the Rotary Club. I own a practice, mental health clinic, but why is very important. My grandfather served in World War II. He was one of 2 survivors in the Battle of the Bulge, and I only found out about that after his funeral. He didn't talk about it. Never. And I was 14 years old when he passed away. He was my best friend. He walked me to school every day through elementary school and middle school. He never said one word. But he also was an alcoholic, had an anger problem, but he loved me and my brothers dearly. And that's why the Eden Project is so important to me, because when I found out after his funeral the reason why, it all made sense. It's what inspired me to become a therapist. It inspired me to give back to others, and it inspired me specifically to give back to veterans. So when I went to graduate school to get my master's in counseling, I wanted to serve the military due to my own medical issues, long hospital stays, post-traumatic stress from medical issues. But I was unable to serve. But they said 10 years, and I said, well, that's not long enough, or that's too long. I want to give today. And so when I helped start a private practice 17 years ago now, I said, I want to serve veterans. I want to serve first responders. I want to be able to do that at a discount. I want to be able to do it very cheap or free. And so that's what I started to do. And so when I met Bren, he was founding the Eden Project in 2016, and I said, hey, let me help you out. Let me help you out. And so since then, we've been hand in hand. We've gone to jail together.
Yeah.
I won't tell the story, but when the judge calls you and says, hey, I need you to go to jail, calling Brent and I'm like, Brent, you ever been to jail? He's like, no. I said, I haven't either, but let's go. At least we're going together. Hopefully we'll get out.
Right,
so we did that when we were helping start the Veteran Treatment Court. We got our first participant. And I love everything they do, and it's an honor to be involved. So guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up, you got another one.
I know. So the second award is, they've been around and been with us for as long as Adam was. He was at that very first meeting, as was Piedmont Hospital. And every year ever since, whenever I need something, I can text or call Paige, and I know I get an answer back, which is unusual, I think, in this day and age, but I instantly get an answer back. It's never a no. It's what can we do? How much can we do? Is that all you need? This whole evening is really because of Piedmont. When we had our board meeting, we're talking about what we need. While we're talking about the board meeting, Dr. Swain's on the phone. She said, "You got it done." So we got our first and biggest sponsor for the evening. So if I could get, I don't know who all's coming up, but whoever's coming up, please come accept your.
Come on up.
I guess I will, sure.
She says she doesn't really want to do this, but she will.
I had to.
Yeah.
I know, but it's not really about us. It's about the people who spoke tonight and those that we serve. But the hospital's been fortunate enough to have the honor to partner with the Eden Project since it started. It's been a joy watching all that we've been able to do for the community and for our veterans and our first responders. And hopefully with the help of everyone here in the room and those little QR codes, that will get bigger and better over the next 10 years. So, thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Don't you have more to give? Oh, but you know what we do have?
There's more?
Oh, there's more. This is the fun part. We have, I know I'm supposed to direct them to the gift bags that we will be giving out.
We do have gift bags.
Yeah, we do have some gift bags for everybody in here. And I know some people were looking at the delicious food that we had tonight and go, where's the dessert? Well, it all depends on how much you give tonight on what you get in your dessert. Some people are going home with some Cinnamon Toast Crunch. No, I'm kidding. We're going to have dessert for you here in just a moment. But on behalf of the Eden Project, on Bryn and everybody involved, and myself, Michael, thank you so very much for all of you being here tonight. And I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.